Hi, I'm Catherine and I'm a hardcore capitalist. So if you're only going to give me a few moments of your time, this is the video that I would ask you please to listen to. So who is this video for? This video, this message, this whole mission is for non-economists, non-financial people, but for regular people, for normal people, for Americans across the country, for Main Street, because capitalism is yours. So this is basically for people who really don't know much about economics or capitalism or finance, whatever. And so what I'm essentially trying to do is distill a lot of very complex information into a form that is digestible. And the reason why this is so important is because to economically empower you, Main Street, the first step is to put this content, this knowledge, this information into your hands. And what I'm trying to show you is that the key to reversing economic inequality and making capitalism work the way it's supposed to for the greater good, not just the few, the key to this is in your hands. So, here is a cold, harsh fact of life. You, Main Street, and you alone have the key to reversing economic inequality and making capitalism work the way it's supposed to. Politics cannot and will not fix this. Not Joe, not Bernie, not Trump. Capitalism is ours, and we alone can fix it, and indeed, we must. Please remember, the cost of not acting is gigantic. The ramifications are immense. If we don't do something, economic inequality will continue to get worse. We are at an absolutely critical juncture. The stakes could not be higher. So I understand that this message that I'm bringing you sounds absurd. But what is absurd is the state of capitalism today. And what is not absurd is the content that I'm bringing you. I am bringing you a very carefully crafted, implementable solution that is built from decades of work by lots of academics, our best academics and thought leaders across capitalism. Their work is far from absurd. It is brilliant, it is inspiring because it gives us the alternative, better version of capitalism. The version of capitalism that we deserve, the true version of capitalism. These thinkers are some of the most fervent champions of Main Street. They include Colin Mayer, William Lazonick, Ned Phelps, Clay Christensen, Derek Van Bever, John Kay, Stephen Davis, Jack Bogle, Bob Monks, and I could go on and on and on. They are wonderful thinkers and they have created the most phenomenal content that shows us the true version of capitalism, the way capitalism is supposed to work, not this dysfunctional, warped version that we have today that does not work for Main Street. So I have been doing this work for the last few years unpaid, essentially as a labour of love, because I know how important capitalism is to our dignity, to our well-being, and to humanity itself. And I have taken this content and I have painstakingly crafted it into a solution that is realistic and implementable. So what I'm asking you to do is to use your economic power. It doesn't cost you anything. It's very simple and very quick. First of all, please follow us on Twitter. Second of all, I need you to sign 3 petitions, and these petitions will ask you to say which state you're in, that you're a taxpayer, and you may even be a member of your state pension fund or a police pension fund or a teacher's pension fund. But if you're not, that doesn't matter. If you're a taxpayer, that's what matters. So these petitions are for screens to be implemented with each individual publicly listed company. Now, if and only if I get enough signatures, that allows me then to go to individual publicly listed companies and to say, look, Wall Street is not doing its job. Wall Street's job is to help and support you focus on long-term, sustainable, inclusive growth. And that means top-line, innovation-driven growth, not this warped, unsustainable form of short-term growth that is the main driver of economic inequality, which is what Wall Street is shoving down the throats of corporate America. Now, remember, Wall Street are just the middlemen. They are not the shareholders. It is not their money that they are managing. It is yours, Main Street's. And so the real shareholders are the 55% of American households who are shareholders directly or indirectly through their pensions, the state pension fund, the teachers' pension fund, the cops' pension fund, etc. Or if you are a taxpayer, your money is also on the line, because it is your money that will be bailing out these state pension funds, most of which are underfunded because they have not been focusing on nurturing growth by supporting and enabling companies to nurture long-term sustainable growth. And that has severely hampered long-term growth prospects and potential long-term investment returns. So it is your money, Main Street, that is on the block here, and it is to you that corporate America is answerable, and they must listen. Now, what on earth are these screens? These screens are in fact our secret weapon, because it is these screens that are used by Wall Street and by other investors to measure companies, to measure their progress, and to push them to change. Now, I know this because I used to be an institutional investor on Wall Street. I know the power of these screens, and what is extraordinary is that there are no screens anywhere at all that focus on this issue of economic inequality and inclusive growth. They do not exist. No ESG provider has thought about this yet. It is extraordinary. It is a complete gap. And so the screens that I've developed over the last few years, drawing from this academic content, is critical to reversing economic inequality and making capitalism work for you, for all the greater good for Main Street. Now, the first screen is around economic inequality, and it embodies various metrics around various aspects of economic inequality. The second screen is around innovation and sustainable growth. Now, I think that this is key because you cannot take away one source of growth without replacing that with another. So in other words, what we're saying is we're taking away the current source of growth that Wall Street is shoving down corporate America's throats, which is short-term focused rationalization, in other words, cost cutting, in other words, squeezing workers. That is the primary driver of profits today. That is clearly not sustainable. So we're saying, look, enough with that, and instead let's replace it with a form of growth that is far more sustainable and inclusive. And this has to be innovation-driven, top-line driven growth. And so the second screen embodies that dimension. The third screen revolves a more philosophical, big picture framework. So we're saying the Friedman doctrine, chuck it out, it's over, it hasn't worked. This caveman capitalism has got to stop. We have to replace that with a smarter version of capitalism. And this smart version of capitalism is built upon these following 5 forces: Colin Mayer, William Lazonick, Mike Porter, Pete Drucker, and Ned Phelps. Those are the 5 forces of capitalism today that we need to be focusing on, that corporate America needs to be focusing on. And so the third and the last screen is built around those dimensions. So let me repeat, please realize the considerable economic power that you have in your hands. And please realize where we are today. I don't think any of us ever in a million years would have imagined that we are in the world that we are today, with capitalism having gone so horribly, obviously wrong, and with all the immense ramifications that has socially, politically, and so much more. So please stop for a moment, look at this from your heart, and ask yourself, can I really afford not to act? I'm not asking you for much. I'm just asking you, follow us on Twitter, sign these 3 petitions. And that goes so far. You have no idea the doors that opens up, the possibilities that opens up. You know, I've always thought that capitalism isn't really just about numbers and business models. Capitalism is about humanity, dignity, well-being, and so much more. And I think if we get capitalism right, politics will take care of itself. So this really is a message from my heart. And I just ask you to look at this from your heart too, and to have the guts to say, yep, we can do this. This is perfectly possible. It is within our reach. That takes guts, courage, and heart. So please join me. So at the end of the day, you might be thinking, well, why should I? And I would say to you, you know what? Sometimes just to say, well, because we can, or, well, why not? We might as well. Those are good enough reasons to act. Because remember, this really doesn't cost you anything to help with this mission. But the cost of not helping and of this mission not moving forward are immense, incalculable. So please, and thank you for your time.